So my name is Rob Kowalski. I am the team leader for Cypress Lakes CERT, and I just took this position at the beginning of this year, so bear with me if I miss something. I'm sure everybody in the back will let me know if I miss something. So I would like to call up Karen Skidmore from the Welcome Committee to say just a couple of things and kind of give you guys a little info.
Thank you, Rob. Again, I'm Karen Skidmore. I'm here with Pam Giesman. We are the Welcome Committee, along with a few other of our friends and neighbors who some are also snowbirds and are not here tonight. You are going to receive a lot of great information tonight, a lot of new information, updated information, and maybe information that none of us have ever known. We, from the Welcome Committee, we give you other information about committees, information about things to volunteer, information about our homeowners association that all of you may not know, all of you do need to know. We will be holding our next meet and greet on Friday, July 14th at 10 a.m. And if you are a new homeowner, we hope that you attend. If you are a homeowner who has never attended, we hope that you attend. We do have some packets to give out to you. We won't have cookies. We may have water, but we will be there with smiles and information. So we hope to see you then if you're a new homeowner. Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
So in my time living here in Cypress Lakes and joining CERT, which I joined shortly after I moved in 2 years ago, I'm surprised how many people don't know that Cypress Lakes has a CERT team and how many people don't know what CERT actually stands for or what CERT is. So I'll give you a little breakdown. CERT is a nationwide program that's sponsored either through fire departments or police municipalities. Training is provided by them as well as your initial equipment. Training is approximately 20 hours, and it's a great way for you to serve your community. Cypress Lakes here, we currently have approximately 45 members. I say approximately because we have a couple in transition that they're going through training, not official members yet. CERT 2022, the report for Polk County. We here in Cypress Lakes, we're sponsored by Polk County Fire Rescue. There were 141 new members. There are 43 teams, CERT teams in Polk County. There's a total of 783 members total, and the hours submitted for 2022 were 14,374 hours of training, volunteer work programs. So what that means is the value of these hours to Polk County equates to $430,501.30 in volunteer hours. So if anyone is interested in joining CERT, this is my shameless recruitment plug. Our next meeting is July 24th, and we meet at 6:30 p.m. in the Arts and Crafts room. So if anybody's interested, want to see what we're all about, please come and show up. We have people of all ages and backgrounds. You don't have to be like a firefighter or anything else. Everybody can do something. Let's see. Unfortunately, the HOA president, Gwen Snook, could not be here this evening, and Madeline Fosfite, who is the chairman of the Safety and Security Committee, and they both had other obligations, so they were not able to be here. But we are lucky to have Josh Odoms from, at least he showed up. Josh Odom, I think I put an S at the end. I'm sorry if I did.
It's possessive.
And let me just see. So also, CERT, we work with CAP and we work with Access Control. If there is some sort of event, hurricane, natural disaster, when the wind stops blowing, we work in conjunction with all of them to go out to search and rescue, God forbid, damage assessment, render first aid if needed, because if it is a large event, Polk County is probably going to be overwhelmed. So that's where all those volunteer hours come in, where we kind of fill the gaps where Polk County is tied up. And let's see, so emergency response plans, the yellow booklets that you have now, one per household. I know there were some people want to get some for neighbors and things. We only have so many right now, so we have to make sure that we can at least get one per household. These ERPs were reviewed and revised this past year. So that was the Safety and Security Committee, Access Control, CAP was involved, CERT was involved, and COVE. So everything was gone through, things were adjusted as necessary with the new management here. And the maps, the shelter maps, the maps will be available tomorrow in the HOA office. We were going to have them here tonight, but there was an unforeseen circumstance, so the maps will be here tomorrow. Somebody wants to stop by and get one of the shelter maps. Some people have them. Some people have them. I don't know if we have enough for everyone. Okay, so if you didn't get a map and you want one, stop at the HOA office tomorrow and we'll have them here. So, all right, well, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Josh Odom from Polk County Fire Rescue.
I normally don't use microphones because I'm a very loud person, but we'll see what we can do today. Hi everyone, my name is Joshua Odom. I'm the Public Education Officer for Polk County Fire Rescue. Before I get started, the first thing I like to say is I know that I look like I'm 12 years old, but trust me, I have at least 3 years of experience. I started when I was 9. I've been doing emergency management work in the career field. I did it for the military for about 6 years, and then I'm getting my degree in it currently. I would have it faster, but I have kids. So I'm not very good at being a student and a dad, so I got to prioritize one or the other. And I'm already a terrible dad, so we're going for student right now. Let's see if I can figure all this out. Everyone has one of these yellow booklets, right? All right, why am I here then? Those booklets are pretty awesome. They have a lot of information. It's a lot of what I'm about to talk about. It's really good stuff. So definitely read those books. And I've written a lot of them, so I can tell you that those are pretty dang good. Okay, just making sure things work up here. I'm probably going to need this because I move around a lot. Do I just turn it on or is it audio? This poor camera guy too. He's going to have to follow me. Oh, oof. Feel bad for you now. So on this first slide here, I don't like reading slides. Everyone in here knows how to read, I assume. So I just talk on my slides and let you guys read a little bit on there, okay? The first slide here is figuring out what our biggest threats are here, what we need to prepare for, what do we need to plan for, what do we need to get ready for, and think about that's going to happen in the future. And our biggest threats here, besides a bunch of northerners coming down and clogging up the roadways and anyone in here a native Floridian? We're alone. Our biggest threats here are going to be severe weather. And when I say severe weather, I don't just mean a hurricane. Flooding, thunderstorms, things of that nature can become really bad really quickly. Do you guys know that floods can occur in all 50 states? I'm sure they can occur in other parts of the country, but I was only trained in America. So I got that going, all right? So severe weather can very quickly lead into a flood. So those two I usually put together in my head. If I'm preparing for severe weather, I'm also preparing for a flood. And when floods occur, they cause a lot of damage. And I'm not just talking about the molding in your house or your drywall, but everything outside. All of our trees get loose. Your vehicles can float away. You can get sewage in the water outside and puddles, and power lines can fall down. Then all the flood water becomes electrified. You got to be real careful with all this, all right? And I know I'm leading into a whole lot of stuff that's coming up. We also got wildfires. When I talk about wildfires, our fire department is very busy. You don't see them too often because they do a really good job, but wildfires occur all the time, and they're much more prevalent than people seem to think. And then our man-made events, the most sad things to talk about. When we talk about man-made events, we don't just mean bad people, also accidents. You know, you get a tanker that's spilled, you get a train that gets derailed in Ohio, things like that happen, and we got to be ready for them. It's hard to make a plan for things like that, but we try our best. And I will say that those actually had some pretty good information about that kind of stuff. Probably user error. It's the other button? No, I got it. Okay, cool. I had to wake up. So our disaster plan considerations. We have to follow this 1, 2, 3. We have to plan for our emergencies that are most likely. Like I mentioned on the previous slide, we have to consider how we're going to respond to them, how they're going to affect us, and what we're going to do to mitigate those effects. And then at the end of the day, whether we can stay in place safely or whether we need to find another place to evacuate to, somewhere that's going to be safer for us. It's a really hard decision to make, leaving your home, but at the end of the day, it's your life over your stuff. And while I like my stuff, I like my life a lot more. When you're making your family disaster plan, put down the clicker, it means I'm going to talk a lot. When you're making your family disaster plan, you're writing down everything that you could potentially think of that you need to prepare for, everything that you need to have a consummate plan and be ready for an event. We have to think about where we're going to meet up. I like to talk about Publix a lot. My 1, 2 other Floridians here, you'll know that Publix is home, right? I grew up in Publix. I remember as a child weighing myself regularly in Publix, and then I stopped. So my wife and I know that if we get separated, if we can't contact one another, the phones go out, too many people that are trying to call and say, hey, bad things are happening, we know, then she and I know that we're going to meet up at the Publix, right? We're going to meet up at the Publix that's right next to our house. We know that we have to be there at a certain time, and that if something happens that we can't be there past a certain time, we have a secondary location. We'll go after that. And that's her mom's house. So I hope we can meet up at Publix. But that secondary location is going to be in Tampa. My in-laws live in Tampa. It's a perfect distance away, right? So if something bad happens in this area and we can't end up going to Publix, it's Publix that's right next to I-4 over here, right off of Socrum. If we can't meet up there because something happens on I-4, then we both know that we're going to head all the way down to Tampa and then meet up at her parents' house. So that's our tertiary location, I suppose. And then if something happens to all of Florida, like a hurricane or snowbird season, then we're going to go somewhere else that's even safer. And that's going to be my parents' house up in Georgia. So we have another out-of-state location, somewhere else that we can escape everything out here. We have a place that's going to be safe. And I know it's going to be safe because it's my dad's house. We also want to make sure that we have an out-of-state contact, someone that is not in the area that's being affected. You want to make sure that they're not also being affected by the same thing, right? So you don't want, Aunt Susan that lives 4 houses down to be your emergency contact. You want someone that lives in Milwaukee or someone that lives up north. I'm sure you guys have friends up north, right? Family. Someone that lives out of the area, out of the cone, right? We say cone a lot because we got hurricanes around here. So someone that lives out of the danger cone, all right? You want them up north, somewhere that they want to have all of your information. I also have a copy of all of my insurance documents, my birth certificate, my kids' birth certificates, my daughter's. I think my son's, I don't know where that one is actually. I think my kids' birth certificates. My wife takes care of that stuff. You have a second copy of all of your paper documents in a safe location somewhere that's going to be out of the danger zone that is all of Florida, right? Somewhere that you can go to and still have everything that you might need. And then at the very bottom here is one of the most important things. That's share your plan. If your plan is to go to your in-laws' house, or go to your friend's house, if there's a hurricane, like, hey, I know that my buddy has a concrete house, it's real safe, let them know that you plan on going there. Because if you just show up, Bob down the road might be like, we only have enough Pop-Tarts for us, guys. All right? Also, take your supplies if you do go. All right? Don't just show up and be like, yeah, we bought a bunch of supplies and left them. We're going to have a party on it when we get back. Financial preparedness. Now, I will tell you that I was an emergency manager. I'm getting a degree in emergency management. And I know one thing about emergency management. They talk a lot. All right? They have a lot of information, and they're going to get that information out of there. So these slides have a lot of information on them. There's a lot of things on here like obtain flood insurance, know if you're in a flood zone. Are we in a flood zone here? Yes? No? Yes and no. That sounds like Florida to me. Well, you need to know if you're in a flood zone, so I recommend finding out. Find out if your residence, your personal residence, I don't care about Becky down the street, find if your personal residence is in a flood zone, all right? And even if it's not, still be prepared for a flood. It can still happen anywhere, right? All 50 states. Can you believe it? Colorado has floods. The rest of the information on this slide is about protecting your documents. I kind of already went over that. You know, I'm usually really good at clickers. Okay. Can I get a raise of hands? Who here was in the military? Awesome. Do you guys remember the term 72-hour pack? Yeah? Your 3-day pack? When you're in the military, at a moment's notice, you can be deployed. And I was. That's why I'm not in the military anymore. But we always call it a 3-day pack or a 72-hour pack. You're always ready to go with your go bag, your bug out bag. Well, the FEMA has decided that 3 days is no longer good enough for an emergency. You could be out of power, you could be out of electricity, you could be out of your home for more than 3 days. So you need to prepare for at least 7 days. After 7 days, FEMA or some government agency will hopefully be there to help you. All right? Did you guys know about Lake Charles during the last big hurricane, about 2019-ish? Lake Charles over in Louisiana got taken out completely. They were without anything, any infrastructure whatsoever for more than 3 weeks. Yeah, I was out there and I was really glad I had an RV with me. It was bad. But in your pack, you want to make sure that you have everything to be self-sustaining for at least 7 days. That's going to be food and water. And when I say food, I don't mean, a bunch of beef or your favorite ice cream. You want a bunch of non-perishable stuff like ramen noodles and Pop-Tarts. I say Pop-Tarts. I like Pop-Tarts. So it's my favorite thing. And then you want to make sure you have enough water. And it says it up on the slide, but do you guys know how much water you need per person per day? A gallon of water, right? Now, I got 2 young kids. I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I'm already building up the gray hair. When I prepare for them, I take into a little bit more account because that 1 gallon is going to be for drinking and for cleaning. So I pack about 5 gallons per person per day for those things, right? They're monsters. We don't want to put that water in our bathtubs or our sinks or anything like that. You want to have them in 5-gallon jugs or water bottles or something along those lines. You don't want to put them in the bathtub because it can build up bacteria, algae, and other gross stuff. And then when you drink it, you get sick, and then you have to deal with being sick and having no power, and you can't eat ice cream. And there's a whole lot of bad stuff, okay? So you can put, I always fill up my bathtub, and I put duct tape over the drain, and I use that to flush the toilet. That's it. All right. And water the plants. I have a little aloe plant. I like my aloe plant. Leave me alone. On here it says also a manual can opener. Please don't, especially my military guys, don't bring out your K-bar. All right, if you've got to open a can, let's have a manual can opener of some sort. You don't want to have an electric can opener. They're not going to work so good if you don't have the electric. All right, so no K-bars. Let's bring out our manual can openers. I got about 15 of them because I keep losing them. And then a battery or hand crank radio. If you don't have a battery hand crank radio, you can go on redcross.org. They're not a sponsor or anything, but they have a good, cheap hand crank radio, emergency radio, gives you all the information you could possibly want. They also have solar stuff. I recommend solar powered things as well, because one thing that Florida will always have, and it's a lot of sun. That's why I wear long sleeves. Make sure you have flashlight, fuel in your vehicle. Your vehicle is going to be a lifeline in a lot of ways. One way is my wife needs to be cooled off every now and then. I'll leave it at that. But don't leave your vehicle running for any extended period of time, and also don't go anywhere, right? Once you found your safe location, after the storm, after the winds have died down, if you're in CERT, you do your CERT duties. If you don't, stay at home, right? Go check on your neighbor. Other than that, stay home. Don't drive anywhere. We need you to stay off the road for your safety. We don't know if the roads are cleared. We don't know if they're safe. And we also might have a lot of emergency vehicles trying to travel all those roads. And if you're all over the roads, more people could get injured, or you could take more time to get them to where they need to go, right? And then this is a big one with a specific generation that's not mine, is candles are no longer an emergency light. We don't use candles. I remember at my grandmother's house 20 years ago going and breaking out the candles when we had a tornado come through Alabama. But nowadays we have flashlights. We got tons of flashlights. You can go to Walmart and buy 60 flashlights for $20, right? They're real cheap, and I don't mean pin lights. You don't want those pin lights, and you don't want to use your cell phone as a light because you're just burning up the light on your cell phone. Go get a nice flashlight from Walmart, Duracell, something like that, and they'll work real good. Also, batteries. Lots of batteries. And every year, buy new batteries. Batteries go bad. Got it. Now, I know that this doesn't pertain to anyone here. Make sure that you have your medicine. Make sure you have your prescriptions. I don't know the exact amount of time before, but I know that as soon as we are under a state of emergency, as soon as the governor has declared us under a state of emergency, you can go to your pharmacy and get your prescriptions refilled. So make sure you do that as soon as he or she announces that it's a state of emergency. Get your prescriptions refilled. Because if you run out of your meds while the power's down, they have no way of checking who you are or if that's actually your meds. So you will not be able to get your medication in a timely manner. And I know for some of us, mostly me and my wife, it keeps us sane. So make sure you get your meds. This is also a really long, in-depth list of everything that should be in a first aid kit. This list can also be found on redcross.org. Again, it's not a sponsor. I just really like that website. It has a lot of good information. Some of the most important things on here are getting a first aid manual, because I don't care how well you did in Boy Scouts. It's always good to have a little refresher before you try to, sew up a wound or something like that. Make sure you have a lot of sterile bandages. I like the ones that have Elsa and Anna on them. All right. Make sure that you also have sunscreen. After a lot of trees have fallen down, a lot of things have happened in our yards, we're going to want to go outside and take care of that stuff because we're independent people, right? Sunburns are real bad. Sunburns are real bad when you don't have electricity. Can't cool off. And I get burnt real bad. Make sure that you have your glasses, that you know where your glasses are. Doesn't usually need to be stated, but I'm going to say it. Make sure you know where your glasses are. I wear contacts. If you wear contacts, make sure you know where your glasses are. Because again, when you don't have electricity, you potentially don't have running water, hygiene kind of gets a little bit lax in certain ways. You don't want to be putting contacts in your eyes, right? Also, I highly recommend getting a lot of baby wipes. Don't flush them, ever, but get a lot of baby wipes. They're great. They do a lot for you. They help you out a lot. And I have stock in baby wipes, again, because I have 2 kids. But they do everything around our house. We don't buy Clorox wipes. We don't buy anything else. We just buy baby wipes. They're awesome. Awesome. So everyone here knows that our hurricanes get named, right? So this is the 2023 list of names for our hurricanes. They're getting pretty unique in certain ways. Every time that there is a named hurricane that causes X amount of damage or reaches a certain category, it is no longer, that name gets retired. So there will never be another Hurricane Katrina, right? Or Charlie or Francis or Jean. Those are my 3 best friends when I was in middle school. Did have to go to school for like a month and a half. It was great. Explains a lot. I'm going to figure you out. Maybe I won't. So hurricane watch versus warning. There's a big thing going around now where they're trying to make it popular, the taco kit for hurricane watch versus warning. I told you guys I've been doing this for a long time, and I like to think that I'm creative. My wife doesn't think so, but I pretend it. I used to say, every time I go to my grandmother's house, the second I walk through the door, she'd tell me, Josh, I got everything I need for a red velvet cake. I got the oil, I got the vinegar, I got the chocolate, I got the flour. Everything's ready. The oven is preheated. I say, awesome, right? Got a red velvet cake watch. And then I'd go and do a whole bunch of chores because I'm really tall and I got to reach all the lights and all the cabinets and fix all the screws and everything going on there. And then she'd come down to the basement or wherever I was working with my grandpa and she'd say, Josh, I'm going to let you know this. There is a red velvet cake that is fully baked and it is currently on the kitchen counter. That's where it's located. And it is ready to go, right? That was our red velvet cake warning, right? We know where it is. It exists. And I'm headed right to it, right? So that's my way of explaining watch versus warning. Now, when it comes to a hurricane, it's a little bit different. Our watch is, again, the potential exists. It's possible within 48 hours, and that's when we're going to activate our safety plan. That's when we're going to dust it off, get all the cobwebs off of it, hope that we still have Pop-Tarts that aren't expired, right? Make sure that we still have all of our medications and things like that ready to go. Find our glasses. I hate being blind. And we're going to get ready for it. We're going to prepare. We're going to bring all the stuff that's outside. I have 75 garden gnomes lined in my front yard. Bring all those in because all they do is turn into missiles, right? At the end of the storm, you won't have a single gnome, but your neighbors will have lots of holes. Yeah. My mom always used to say that, hey, we have a trampoline. Hurricane comes and our neighbor has a trampoline. Hurricane warning is saying that the hurricane conditions, the conditions of a hurricane, so the wind, the rain, everything is expected within 36 hours. That's when you start to hunker down. My boss, Kathy, she likes to put 2 syllables in down, so she likes to say hunker down, down. I tell you, I'm from the South. I can't even speak it as well as her. But that's when a hurricane warning is given. That is when you're going to hunker down. That's where you get somewhere safe, and you're going to stay there. You guys aren't Floridians. Well, ma'am, y'all aren't Floridians. So I'll tell you that we have a hurricane party, right? That's where you take all your supplies, you get with your friends somewhere safe, and you hang out and sit there through the hurricane. You listen to the winds. You get your generators going, or you still have electricity for the moment, and you watch Game of Thrones, even though we don't like how it ends, right? You sit together and you enjoy each other's company, and you're safe. It's a hurricane party, right? Don't drink alcohol; it dehydrates you. You don't want any of that. But everything else, you're good. Play euchre. You guys play euchre? No? Okay. Some people from Ohio must be here. But you get together and you're safe and you hunker down, right? That's going to be our hurricane warning. And then after everything's passed over and you're tired of each other, because I don't care how much you love your friends and your family, it's 6 or 7 days together is rough, right? Is that why you guys came down here, so you could go to Disney and not have to deal with them for 6 or 7 days? I get it. So this is our tropical storm and hurricane wind speeds. So you see we got at the top there, we got tropical depression. That's when it's just starting to build up. That's when we are going to start paying attention to it, right? We pull it up, the NOAA radar. We see where it's going. We get some real scattered plots for where it's headed. They're rarely correct. Then we get the tropical storm. That's when it's starting to build up. And at that point, I get a little concerned, right? When it's a tropical storm, that's when it can really cause some damage, especially if you're in manufactured homes, you're not in a solid concrete house. It can actually move things around. It can cause some issues for you. Then we get into our numbers. The numbers are when it gets real scary, right? You get tropical depression, you get tropical storm. That sounds almost like a drink. Then you get your numbers, and the numbers is real clinical. You get a category 1, 2, and 3. Those are all going to be really rough. They're going to be scary. You're going to make sure that you're activating your plan, you're taking care of each other, you have communications going, you're ready for this. Category 4 and 5, don't be here. Be somewhere else. If you have a house up north, I'd recommend watching this all happen on the news. All right? Category 4 and 5 is where a lot of lives are lost. Don't be dumb. Go somewhere, okay? Even me, right? We're evacuating for a 4 and 5, right? As Floridians, we're out, right? When you see Floridians run, that's when you get out. So safety after the storm. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but we're in Polk County. And I love Polk County. I do. Makes me feel like I'm back in the South again. It's great. We got those top 2 bullets there, proper use of grills and proper use of generators. Now, I know everyone in Polk County knows how to use a grill because I've had some real good food around here. When I say proper use of grills, do we ever grill inside? We got good ventilation. We left the doors open. No, right? You're going to catch your house on fire. What about proper use of generators? Do you ever operate a generator inside? I didn't want to get wet, right? Both of those give off noxious gases that can kill you in your sleep. And a lot of people, a good amount of people in Polk County, have died to having generators or grills inside or really close to their house. When you're operating your grill, make sure it is far enough away from your house so that heat can't combust your house. Make sure if you're using a charcoal grill, you keep the charcoal separate from the grill. Obviously, the charcoal that you're using to grill with, yes, but the bag goes somewhere else, right? Go for a jog every time you need more charcoal. It's a good idea. You also burn off all the brisket. When you're removing debris, does everyone here know what PPE is? That's personal protective, my CERT people. Personal protective equipment, right? So our gloves, our goggles, our helmets, a shirt, shoes, pants. Make sure you're wearing all that when you're using a chainsaw or any other tools and equipment removing debris. If you don't know how to use a chainsaw, don't figure it out right after a hurricane. Right? When I teach CPR, I tell people when someone is having a cardiac arrest, that's not the best time to figure out how to check a pulse, right? Figure it out beforehand. Take a class. Ask your neighbor, hey, I got this chainsaw. It's really nice. Husqvarna. Sounds like a cool name. Can you tell me how to use it? Right? I don't have any fear. I'm a 6'7", 29-year-old man. I'll ask anyone. I don't know how to use this thing. Can you show me how to use it? It's a good idea because right after a hurricane, our caveman brain takes over, and we're just like, we have a limb in front of our house. We're going to remove it, however means possible. Be safe. Do it smart. I already said this, but stay home unless absolutely necessary. You don't need to go anywhere. I'll tell you what, if you want to see what the hurricane's effects were, look in the news. They're all in the way anyway. Can't stop the media from being in the way. Check out on the news. They'll show you what it looks like. It's not good. Make sure that you keep contact. Keep watching the news. Keep figuring out, hey, it's still raining. Is it still dangerous? I was going to say, do we need to go to school? No one's going to school. Right? Make sure you keep in contact with your CERT, with your neighborhood, with your neighbors. Hey, I haven't heard from Martha in a couple days. Let's go check on Martha. Let's go bother her. Right? Maybe she has some more Pop-Tarts. It's the wild berry ones. Purple. I was just discussing this with my wife. We had cake at a ceremony earlier today, and people were going crazy over it. My favorite part about being an adult is I can just go to Walmart and buy cake. Shouldn't, but I can. Water safety after a storm. There's a whole bunch of words up there. I'm going to tell you 2 things. I don't care how deep the water you think is deep. Never step into water. Ever, right? Would you go walk through one of these ponds that you see on the side of the road? No. After a hurricane, after a flood, after a big storm, after something bad's happened, our sewage doesn't always do the best, right? That gets in the water, you got a cut on your toe, that just won't heal, and it's crazy, I don't know what to do with it. Then you walk in that water, now you got a bacterial infection from something bad, right? Also, we got a lot of power lines. A lot of our power lines are under the ground. When the ground gets really wet, infiltrated with water, then some things kind of move a little bit, and things can get cut. Then you have electricity running through all the water. Then you step into that, it's real shocking, right? And up here it says, children can easily drown within 2 inches of water. I will tell you, anyone can drown within 2 inches of water. I don't know about you guys, but at some point in my life, I have tripped and fallen, right? If you trip and fall and hit your head and go unconscious, normally, you're going to have to go to the hospital, get things checked out, but you'll be okay. There's a 2-inch puddle of water, and you fall face first into it, there's not going to be a hospital in your future. And then at the bottom, I love the bottom bullet. Remember what lives in the water. So you think that hurricane coming is scary for you? You're watching the news. The gators and the snakes don't have news. They're going to try to find somewhere nice and warm and safe. That's going to be your house. I know I mention gators a lot when I talk, and you know gators. We were trained as children to run away from gators. You guys know how to do that? Zigzag? Don't do that. That's not a good idea, actually. They came out 10 years later, and they're like, maybe not. Just run. So as far as hurricane evacuation zones, we don't have them. We're not going to tell you to evacuate. We have decided here in Polk County that it is your decision whether or not you evacuate. I will tell you, as someone who is a real big nerd for emergencies, right? I've done a lot of research, I've written a lot of papers, I like this stuff a lot. If you need to evacuate before it becomes an emergency, right? If you live in a manufactured home, which I have a good feeling that most of you do, evacuate before it becomes an emergency. Evacuate, get somewhere safe, right? Go to Uncle Greg's house. Uncle Greg has the good Pop-Tarts. I'm real hungry now. It's recommended, again, we're not going to tell you to, but it's recommended that you evacuate if you live in a manufactured home, a mobile home, or an RV. Anyone in here not live in one of those? Cool, so everyone, you should evacuate if it comes to that. Again, make your decision early. Make sure that you know, hey, we're going to evacuate. Hey, we're going to go to Bill's house. He lives in a concrete house. Again, let Bill know. Hey, Bill, we're staying here for a few days, right? Make sure that they know. Your options are stay at home, shelter in place. Again, if it's not really headed towards us, if you don't think it's going to be an emergency, if you feel safe in your skills and your experience and your capabilities, then shelter at home. You can evacuate to a friend or family member's house. Like we kind of decided that most of you have friends and family up in a northern area, right? Maybe head up there. Evacuate the area. So we decided that we're going to go Daytona for the weekend, right? Hopefully if a hurricane's hitting us, it's not hitting Daytona. I don't recommend going to Tampa. It's like a straight shot across. That's where I'll be. Evacuate to a hotel or a motel. I really don't recommend this. You don't know how many other people have tried to make that decision, and you also don't know what they're going to have, what the amenities might be, because they're going to be reduced amenities, because the people that work there are Floridians, and they were like, hey, I'm out. I'm evacuating, right? And then at the bottom, we have evacuate to a public shelter. Now, it's not the worst thing ever, but I do not recommend evacuating to a public shelter. A public shelter is going to be the bare necessities, just like the Jungle Book. You don't have to eat bugs, though. All right? You're good there. We have 3 different types of public shelters. We have the general population, we have special needs, and we have pet-friendly. When we say pet-friendly, that means that you go there with your pets. Don't just go by and drop Fluffy off, all right? We have this shelter map here. I brought some shelter maps. I brought 500 Spanish shelter maps. I am sorry. I live nearby. I will bring more tomorrow. That's my bad. So I brought some shelter maps, though. Some of them got passed out, and we'll get you more. But this is what your shelter map's going to look like. It's a whole bunch of dots. Up in the top right there, it labels all the shelters. Just because a shelter is named on here does not mean it's going to be activated. So if you do plan on going to a shelter, by all means, go, but call beforehand. Make sure it's actually open. Otherwise, you're just going to be breaking and entering into a school. And that looks bad. We're sheltering in a prison. Go. It's voice activated. This is going to be the back of your shelter map, and we give you directions on how to get to all the shelters. At the bottom there, in the bottom left, you'll see the 7-day survival kit. You see our evacuation policy. Do, don't. We have information on our special needs. When I say special needs, I mean people that rely on electricity to stay alive, that they need oxygen, that they have some special equipment that they require to live. That's going to be a special needs. It's not just because you require your pillow to be fluffed every night at 3 a.m. Sorry, I was thinking about my marriage. Great. Our pet-friendly shelters, there's a whole bunch of information there. We accept cats, dogs, and birds. If you have chickens, buy some new chickens. We don't consider those birds. We're talking about like cockatiels and parakeets, okay? If you have a horse, anyway, find somewhere else for your horse to go. If you require special needs, if you require that electricity to stay alive, and you have a pet, then you need to find either someone else that can watch your pet, that can take care of your pet while you stay at the special needs shelter. That's about it, really. That's what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna find someone else to watch Fluffy, okay? And we also have sources of emergency information on the bottom right there. That's going to be where you can find all this information, where you can get different venues for emergency information, like hurricane stuff that's coming through, and emergency management sends out a whole lot of information through there on the local area. Also, it's going to be crazy. See if I can go back a slide. I'll go over it more in a second, but Alert Polk in the bottom right corner of that slide, it's a great venue for information. I have a whole slide about it. I just thought about it right now. I'm sorry. You. So this is our special needs program overview. This is everything that we will help you with. You have to pre-register. We recommend that you pre-register. I'll change that. We recommend that you pre-register for special needs shelter, just to make sure that there is going to be space for you. This isn't a hotel registration, however. Just because you register doesn't necessarily mean that there will be space. It just gives you a better chance of there being space and lets us know to reach out to you. If you register, then we'll call you and be like, hey, do you need us? Do you need us to come get you? We will pick you up if you require that. All the school buses and the county buses shut down before a hurricane hits, and then they convert over into picking people up and taking them to special needs and things like that. We have everything that you could possibly need there. We have doctors on call. We have nurses on call. We have people that are there to help you with everything and make sure that you're taken care of while you're there. However, I like to tell everyone, make sure you bring a pillow and a blanket and anything else you plan to sleep on. I believe that they supply cots and a roof. And most recently, I believe that they also supply food. But other than that, anything else that you'd like, make sure you bring. I would buy one of those fans that people take to Disney. Might get hot. There's a lot of people in a room. If you do need to be picked up, if you do need transport, we'll give you a 4-hour window. It's a lot like the plumber. Give you a 4-hour window, and we'll show up at some point during that time, so just make sure that you're ready for it. I mean, there's a hurricane coming. You don't have much else to do, right? Just keep tacking down your house and getting ready, and then we'll show up and take you over there. After winds have approached 70 miles per hour sustained, we will shut down all of our transport, and the only people that will be on the road are emergency services. So make sure you get transported before that. Otherwise, hunker down. As far as our pets, when you do bring your pets, make sure that you have a airline quality crate for your pet. This isn't just going to be a zoo craziness, animals running. Well, I guess zoos have all their animals caged. This isn't crazy though. We don't have animals running all over the place and whatnot. Make sure you bring food for your pets. Make sure you have a water dish, a food dish, a leash, collar. You're taking care of your pet. This isn't you coming to this shelter and then us taking care of your pets. I don't like pets that much. I like mine. I take care of mine. We also recommend that you take a selfie with your pet. You know what selfies are? Yeah. A thing you send to your niece and your granddaughter every now and then, right? Hey, we live in Florida, you don't. Right? Make sure you take a picture of you with your pet. That way, if someone's like, "That's my dog," we don't have to go King James. Cut it in half. Okay. Oh, and make sure that it's up to date on all its vaccines and everything, and all its medical records are good. Again, that's something that you should keep all together with you. And Aunt Doreen, I have a different aunt every time I say it. I have a lot of aunts. My grandparents probably went crazy. So Alert Poke is a program that we have that puts out tons of information. I gave Rob a stack of our Alert Polk information cards, and they'll be more happy to hand them out, and as you leave, you can grab one. However you guys disseminate things, I don't know. But you can get an app on your phone, or you can go to alertpolk.com, and you can enter all of your information. You can enter your home phone, you can enter your burner email, whatever you want to do. It sends out lots of information about the local area and emergencies that might be happening. If we recommend evacuation, if we think that certain things are happening and conditions are getting to a point where survivability is not as high as we would like it to be. That's as far as we can go without saying that you have to evacuate, right? You can sign up there. It gives you a lot of information. Not much more than I can say. That gives you a lot of information. They inundate you with all sorts of information about the area, wildfire potential. There's a burn ban going on right now. They sent that information out there. Please don't burn anything. You guys have an HOA, so don't burn anything anyway. Is that HOA? I don't live in an HOA. So Polk County Emergency Management, this is all of their information. This is their contact info. Make sure you call them and ask them as many questions as you can, please. They have Facebook and Twitter. Their Twitter is not entertaining, but it has a lot of good information on it. It tells you about the local area. And they also just update you with random stats and interesting things. And they tell you about local events that are going on that they work at and that they're maintaining and protecting and mitigating disasters at. I like it. Awesome. Before I open it up to questions, despite the fact that my boss told me to simply stick with the slides, I do want to mention, while I'm sure your HOA has information on it, but when you're putting up shutters of any sort, make sure that you know what shutters you can put up. And if you don't know, number one, your HOA is going to have some kind of policy for it, I'm sure. But if you can't put them up yourself, hire a handyman, right? If you have a neighbor that's specifically handy, ask them to help you out. If they're busy putting up their own shutters, hire another handyman, go out, figure out someone else. You can Google it. There's a handyman around here somewhere. And also, do not leave your shutters up year-round. If you live up north for half the year, don't leave your shutters up. One of the ways that we put out fires is by spraying the water at your window, breaking your window, and putting the water out from inside, or putting the fire out from inside. It really bothers me when I see shutters left up all year round, if you can't tell. But that is all the information I have for you guys. I will open up to questions, and I think that there's going to be some roving microphones, which is like a really cool concept. So if you have a question, just raise your hand, and I like questions. So I'm more than happy to answer them. Or you guys can all stare at me blankly.
This isn't a question, it was just the emergency kit, is that on?
I got you.
Okay, they have electric fans where you can do it with batteries, and we bought it because when your air conditioner's out, it's really hot, so they have fans that run by batteries, and they're fairly cheap. You get them now because whenever it gets close to the time, they're all gone. But it really would help you, when the air conditioner runs out.
That's very true. She said electric fans. I highly recommend getting those electric fans. Like I mentioned, you take them to like Disney and things like that. They have bigger fans that are like that too, that also are rechargeable. I have one that can even charge your phone off of it. So it's super awesome. In the camping section, they have a lot of those things.
How much water do you recommend for pets?
For pets, I'd go for a gallon per pet as well. And again, I mentioned do not store water or do not drink or consume or use on your body the water that you store in your bathtub. Also, don't give that to your pets either, because sick pets, almost as bad, if not worse, than sick you. So yeah, about a gallon per pet. Unless you got like a really big dog. Anyone else? Did I do that well? Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, he did do a great job. Hey, give him one more round.